Okay, so let's watch a couple of videos. I want to watch Chen Shang again. And then I want to watch, I'm sorry, I've forgotten his name, but the Japanese Zen master, watch his take on things. And then we'll talk about that a little bit. All right, so hold on. Rand, what did you think of the last guy, the Japanese guy?
He's got it.
Yes, he's got it.
Yeah.
No, you know what I mean. He's all the things that we talk about. He's relaxed. He's deliberate. He takes his time with the moves. He's not under pressure. Um,
Yeah, yeah, I agree with all those things. He is by far the slowest performer.
Mhm.
That was slow compared to Chen Shang. Now, I hope that you saw some transfer from Chen Shang to him. So a lot of what he was doing was because of his work with Chen Shang. But then he customized it using his own experience and making his own decisions. So to me, this guy and Master Feng and my teacher have the most conscious forms. With this guy, you could really see it. He's letting you see it. My teacher, you had to get to know him to realize that underneath his simplicity, he was absolutely aware of what was going on. Master Feng was much more classic Tai Chi. This guy is, a variation on it, a Japanese variation. But to me, it's all about consciousness. It is really, really conscious. He takes his time so that he can stay conscious. It's not about living in the past. It's not about anticipating the future. That's the one that gets most people in Tai Chi, is anticipating the future. He's right here in the present moment. And he's not afraid to, now, the truth is he never stops, but it kind of looks like he's stopping. It's fine. It's fine to take a second or two, to take as long as it takes. And that's out of his Zen training, I'm sure. Not many people have that level of moment to moment consciousness. If you think about the Tai Chi form, it is stream of consciousness. Just like a novelist who's writing a stream of consciousness novel or an episode in the novel, it's stream of consciousness. What's your stream like? What's my stream like? Are you really doing what you want to do, or are you doing what your teacher told you to do? Or are you performing some story that you've made up on your own mind by watching people? It's kind of tricky. Susan, what do you think?
Well, the thing that I was so aware of with him was what, you've talked about, stillness in motion. He was absolutely still internally. You could just feel that.
Yes, I think that's true. I think what you just said and what I just said are two sides to the same coin.
Right.
To be that still inside is to be 100% conscious.
Mhm.
And you think, well, that sounds so simple.
Simple, but not easy.
Very simple, but it's not easy. Because we're I don't know about you guys, but I'm always running ahead of myself.
I actually, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it's easy to get distracted, not with the past or the present of the form, but just like with, I don't know, random things. You're like, oh, did I Take out the laundry or whatever.
You know, when you, I'm sure you guys have all done some meditation. There is meditation in this training regime. We don't do any, but it is there, and it's actually considered a very, very, very important foundation for what we're doing. And one of the things that you run into when you try this form of meditation, which is called Jianzhuang. Jianzhuang means standing post. It's standing meditation, and you're standing like a post, right? Or like a tree. One of the things that happens immediately is your monkey mind goes crazy. So it's just like Rand is describing. You just start all this stuff. The form is no different. The form, when you do Jianzhuang, it's called standing post or standing pole. What do they mean by pole? They mean this. They mean your internal pole, standing, not moving. When you do Tai Chi, it's called a moving pole. One is standing, the other is moving, but it's always the same pole. And the ideal, which very few people ever get to, is they should be the same thing. Inside, you're just as still as you may learn to be in Jianzhuang. Simple idea. You find your internal stillness and you bring it into movement. So you never lose your stillness. You never lose yourself. You stay conscious. I've been working on that for 40 years and I'm still working on it. The reason that he's able to do it is not because he's so expert in Tai Chi. It's because he's so trained in Zen Buddhism. That doesn't mean that every Zen Buddhist can do that. He just happens to be able to do it. Remember that little poem I told you guys? The stillness in stillness is not the real stillness. Only when there's stillness in movement will the spiritual rhythm appear that pervades heaven and earth. That's what you're really going for. It's not to become a martial artist. It's not really even to have a healthier body, although you might get those. But that's not really what it's for. What it's really for is to unravel that knot that we just talked about. In a certain way, it's the simplest thing in the world. In another way, it eludes all of us. Very few of us can truly do what the Japanese guy we just watched does. However, the value of watching someone like that is he shows you what's possible. Okay, oh, all right. It was the same with Master John. I've told you the story of going to see him, and I was, I didn't know who he was. I was just going with a friend. I was just trying to placate a friend. I watched him, I'm not kidding, guys. I watched him for 2 seconds, and I knew I was going to be training with him for 20 years. I could see it in him. He was young enough. I know exactly the move that he was doing when I was watching him, right? He was doing that move. My favorite move. And I was watching him from behind, right? So he was standing there, and there was a big group of people around in the circle, and I knew in a second, because there was just like an aura that came off him. The same way as we watch this guy. It's different, but the same. The thing about watching someone like Zhang, who did not teach by words, but taught by movement, and this guy, who's not teaching by words, who's teaching by movement, both of them had a kind of silence, a kind of stillness, even though they were moving. And if you were receptive to that, and people are receptive to that, it's very beautiful. I think a Zen Buddhist would say, well, this is just about becoming a human being. Right? The thing about Tai Chi and Qigong, or you could talk about this with yoga, you could talk about it with dance, you could talk about it with art, you could talk about it with music, is the disciplines themselves have built into them things that will help you achieve this. Now, in order to take advantage of it, you've got to know they're there. And then you have to, I keep saying, slow down, right? Even though I'm too fast, I want you guys to slow down. But you watch the guy that we just watched, and you can see, I mean, if you want to call them tricks, that's okay, call them tricks. One of his tricks is he would almost stop from time to time. What I got out of watching him this time, I think because we watched Chen Shang first and then we watched him, there are big differences between the two. One of the differences I noticed is how they divide the form up. What decisions they're individually making about the yin and yang cycles is kind of like, you guys might not get this, but Susan will. It's kind of like if you're listening to the Rachmaninoff Third Piano Concerto, and you might listen to 2 or 3 different virtuoso concert pianists. They're all good. They're all playing the same score. They're all playing the same notes. But each of them is very different because they are dividing the notes up in different ways to emphasize different things. Susan and I were talking, I don't know, I guess it's probably months ago now when we were talking about this guy, Alexander, what's his name, that we've been watching and we both like, right? He reveals things in the music that you never even heard before, that you didn't even know were there. But the music's actually the same. The score is the same as all the other people. How is he doing that? It's exactly like watching these guys. Chen Shang shows you one thing. This guy shows you something related, but a little different. Master Feng shows you a far more traditional and strong point of view. None of them are right or wrong. they're just different from each other. But for me personally, I'm kind of interested in following what this guy is doing. I think it has a lot to teach me. I've been following Master Feng and Master Zhang for years, and I'm not going to forget about that. But I'm actually interested in following this guy because of this stillness that Susan is mentioning in there. Yeah, you got to find that stillness, even though you're still moving. And one
Malcolm, I also think that one thing that he does, which is impressive, is he gives you permission to go all the way. He's like, try to finish the move, try to like see
yes,
it through.
yes,
And you're like, yeah, okay, man, that's an interesting idea. Maybe I should see it through. I should try it out.
Rand, that is absolutely critical to what we were doing, and it reminds me of something Master Zhang used to say so often that we actually had a class T-shirt made. And what he would say is, every movement, all the way. Every movement, all the way. So we had T-shirts made up with that.
I actually still have that shirt somewhere.
I think I probably do too. So what does he mean by that? Every movement all the way. To me, it kind of means two things, and they all amount to the same thing. Stay in the present moment. Finish the movement. So what does finish the movement mean? So suppose you were doing a move like this. Don't stop before it's done. Don't go racing ahead. No. So in a sense, it means finish the physical movement. But even more importantly, it means finish the energetic movement. Yeah, Kevin.
So I was watching his hands, and I was just watching your hands, and the finishing of the move all the way. And you read the Tai Chi Bible, the Chen Bible, and it talks about how the Chi circles your fingers, and I'm trying to figure out all that stuff. What does it feel like to, and the closest verbally is that if you're standing in the shower and you hold your arm out, the water runs down your arm and off your fingers. That's what I picture Chi feels like. You tighten up your hand and the stream goes somewhere else. So like when you were doing this movement, you had focused pretty much everything on the ball. And when he was doing it, it was just coming out his fingers. And it wasn't stiff. He's not like this. He's just, and you could just see, and that's what I would think finishing the move is to me.
When he was doing the form, it was not copying Master Feng. Influenced by him, but not copying him. Feng was very oriented toward martial applications. So, what are you doing when you do this? Why is my hip out here? Right? Why is it not just like this?
Because you did the hip check.
But it's not. It's like this. Exactly. Yeah. You're doing the hip check. And now I'm pushing into his pelvis. There's nothing right or wrong about either way. What Kevin's mentioning, if you watch this guy, we'll watch him again next Saturday. If you watch him, he's not really oriented primarily toward martial applications. A few of them, right? That one, right? A few of them. But most of it is oriented toward the Qigong. That is toward the energy exercise. So his hands are very soft. And they pretty much just sort of stay soft. Right? From the martial point of view, that can be important because it's about when you're hitting someone from the martial point of view, it's not about hitting them with your physical body, it's about hitting them with your chi. So you have to be able to move your chi, like Kevin was saying, like rainwater off your body. So it's not that it's not martially applicable, but it's a different approach. But it's a very good approach because it gets at the second thing I was going to mention, which is finishing a move energetically. If we're going to use Kevin's metaphor, you're standing in the shower and the water is running down. You wait. You wait until the water runs down and runs out until you think it's done or done enough. And then that's the yang phase. Right? The energy's coming down. Now you're going to go into a yin phase where you're gathering energy again, and then yang again, and then yin, and then yang, and then yin, and then yang. You're gathering energy, and then you're expending energy outward. So what Master Zhang meant by every movement all the way, it was energetically. If you're going to gather energy, then gather energy. If you're going to, give some energy out, then give it out all the way, not halfway. And what gets in the way of that, Master Feng described as impatience, lack of patience. Right? But that we could say is about anticipation. You're not actually in the moment. You're racing ahead. At least that's what most people do. It's what I do. It's what most people do. And you're not even aware that you're doing it. It's actually a demon of the learning process because the choreography of the form is difficult. There's a lot to learn. And so you focus on that and, okay, I kind of get done and then I go on to the next move and then the next move. And I'm racing ahead, trying to remember, trying to do this and that. But actually, when you truly do this the right way, you don't do that. Because what you're paying attention to is not that. What you're paying attention to is the water running down and off your hand. So learning the choreography of the form is what you have to do so you can forget about that and pay attention to this other thing. It's just your ticket to get into the tent. I'll send you guys a URL to this guy. Watch him a couple times. And give yourself permission to truly slow down. Maybe a way to say it, they talk about in meditation, Buddhist meditation, other forms of meditation, that you witness. You can't stop your monkey mind. You just can't stop it. So what you do is you just let, Annie says, you give it a cookie and you tell it to go outside and play, right? Your monkey mind's going to do what your monkey mind's going to do. What you do is fall back into your witness. That's where you can find the stillness. Monkey mind's just going to go ahead and be a monkey mind. But you don't have to identify with your monkey mind. You stay in the witness. Now you watch this guy that we just watched. and you will see him witnessing himself. If you're watching yourself, there's no problem with slowing down. It's when you're not watching yourself that you speed up too fast. That you, in essence, kind of lose yourself. Yeah, Kevin.
So one of the things I try to do to, I don't know if I'm feeding the cookie or if I'm just doing something else, but the Vietnamese Buddhist, Thick, I can't pronounce his name. Yeah. So he would say when you're for your breathing is instead of like counting 100 breaths, you go 1 in, 1 out, 2 in, 2 out. So you get to 10, and then you start over again. So you don't have to keep track of what, hundreds of reps you have. And that really helps. It just like slows you right down, and you just think about that, and then everything else is a little easier to play with.
Yeah. So there are various tricks in the meditative traditions to get yourself into a better place. You could say, in a sense, when you think of Tai Chi this way, Tai Chi itself is a trick. It's something to do while you're practicing awareness. I've mentioned before that the ideal in Tai Chi is the golden thread. From the beginning of the form to the end, it's a single unbroken thread of consciousness. Now, of course, the ideal is it's always there. It's not just when you're doing the form, but the form is a way to help practice that, and stay conscious. The form is very complicated. The 24 movement forms, 24 movements, but honest to God, it's more like about 400, isn't it? Wow, that really gives you something quite difficult to have to do, and then to liberate your consciousness so that you are witnessing yourself doing it. That's a trick, or you can call it a trick. And the best thing that I can think of to move in that direction is just to slow down. So watching this guy is a way of, as Rand said, of giving yourself permission to do things in a certain way. Feng was doing it too. Master Zhang was doing it. They're doing it in their own ways. You watch any really good practitioner, they're going to be doing that. But the truth is, there are very, very few of them. There's lots of people who do Tai Chi, but there are very few people who do it correctly. But that's okay. I mean, they're on their way. You're on your way. It might take 99 lifetimes to get there. Sometimes I'm a little better, sometimes I'm a little worse. That's the way it goes. But the other thing about this guy is he's got really cool clothes. I mean, that outfit he's got is beautiful. So
yeah, that's also an important lesson, I think. Like, have the right clothes.
very important. And get yourself a set of really cool clothes. All right, guys. Have yourselves a good day. I'll send you the URL to this. Just watch it a couple of times over the week, and we'll watch it again on Saturday, and we'll do a little movement on Saturday. All right. Okay, guys. See you next time.